Becky Lynch, the man, broke down in tears as chaos erupted backstage after Seth Rollins, her husband and WWE's top star, collapsed moments before he was set to perform. Witnesses describe the scene as nothing short of harrowing. A mixture of panic, heartbreak, and anger, all unfolding in real time in front of crew, superstars, and fans who were backstage at the California live event. Seth had been struggling for weeks, insiders revealed, with exhaustion, dehydration, and nagging injuries. But what happened backstage that night was a level of crisis no one could have prepared for. According to eyewitnesses, Seth stumbled, swaying as if the floor beneath him had disappeared. Crew members rushed to support him, but within seconds, he collapsed entirely, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Becky Lynch, already concerned for weeks over Seth's overwork and the grueling WWE schedule, immediately rushed to his side. Reports say she cradled him, tears streaming down her face, pleading with paramedics for updates as if her voice alone could stabilize him. Her iconic composure, known from years of main event dominance, vanished completely. For those watching, it was a raw, human moment that no storyline could ever capture. Paramedics moved swiftly, placing Seth on a stretcher as Becky continued to follow, gripping his hand tightly, refusing to let go. Fellow superstars, visibly shaken, attempted to console her, but even legends like Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns were reported to be speechless at the sight of Becky breaking down. She screamed at WWE staff and management, demanding answers, accountability, and assurances that Seth would be treated properly. Witnesses said she shouted, "You knew this could happen. You let this happen. How could you?" The scene outside the hospital grew chaotic as fans arrived, drawn by word of mouth and social media updates. Chants of, "Save Seth," and, "Becky stay strong," filled the parking lot as candles and banners were set up. Social media blew up within minutes. Instagram stories, Twitter posts, and TikTok videos showing Becky's emotional struggle and Seth being rushed to emergency care circulated globally, garnering millions of views within hours. Inside the hospital, Becky refused to leave Seth's side. Reports say she held him, whispered reassurances, and repeatedly asked medical staff to ensure every possible measure was taken. The WWE locker room, meanwhile, erupted into outrage. Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and other top stars confronted officials backstage, criticizing the company for ignoring warning signs, pushing talent beyond their limits, and risking lives for ratings and storylines. Fans around the world were furious. Hashtags like hashtag pray for Seth, hashtag save the architect, and hashtag Becky Strong began trending worldwide. Thousands demanded accountability from WWE, calling out management for failing to protect its talent. Online petitions for better performer safety protocols and medical oversight gathered tens of thousands of signatures in hours. Fans weren't just upset. They were enraged, claiming that Wwe'S negligence had almost cost one of its biggest stars his life. Sources close to the hospital reported that Seth's condition was serious but stable after initial treatment. Monitors and oxygen kept him under observation, but every fluctuation in vital signs caused fresh panic for Becky, family members, and friends. She was reportedly in constant contact with doctors, demanding full transparency, refusing to leave even for a single moment. The emotional weight of the situation was overwhelming. This was not a storyline. This was real life, with real stakes. Becky Lynch, a performer known for her resilience, courage, and fiery persona, showed the world her vulnerability. Her tears, her screams, and her desperation humanized the WWE universe in a way no match or promo ever could. Fans felt the heartbreak, sharing their own messages of hope, prayers, and anger at the system that allowed this near tragedy to occur. Backstage, tension mounted. Wrestlers were furious, many openly expressing that they would not risk themselves if WWE refused to make changes. Conversations about walkouts and boycotts began, fueled by the fear that any one of them could be next. The company, meanwhile, scrambled for damage control, issuing vague statements about medical emergencies while trying to maintain its public image. But fans weren't fooled. The visual of Becky in tears, refusing to leave Seth's side, had gone viral, and WWE couldn't spin human emotion. As hours passed, the story continued to dominate social media. Every update about Seth's condition was met with both relief and anxiety. Every fan post, tribute, or vigil only intensified the pressure on WWE to implement immediate safety reforms. This wasn't just about one superstar anymore, it was about the ethics and humanity of the entire company. And through it all, Becky Lynch's tears remained the most powerful image. A woman who had spent years portraying strength and dominance, now reduced to raw emotion as she held the man she loved, fighting for his life. It was a stark reminder that behind the spectacle of WWE, behind the glitz, the storylines, and the cheers, are real people, with real lives, and real vulnerabilities. Inside the California hospital, tension reached a fever pitch. Seth Rollins was immediately moved to critical care, hooked up to monitors, IVs, and oxygen, while doctors worked to stabilize him. Every fluctuation in his vitals sent ripples of fear through the waiting room, where Becky Lynch refused to leave his side. She held his hand tightly, tears streaming down her face, whispering words of reassurance even as panic threatened to consume her. Witnesses report that Becky confronted hospital staff, demanding constant updates, insisting that every possible measure be taken for Seth's recovery. Her usual fierce composure, which has dominated arenas worldwide, was replaced by raw, human emotion. This wasn't performance. It was desperation, heartbreak, and a motherly instinct to protect the person she loved most. Backstage at WWE, the atmosphere was explosive. Fellow superstars confronted executives, voicing outrage over the negligence that allowed Seth to perform under such dangerous conditions. Kevin Owens reportedly shouted at management, "You pushed him too far. This could have been fatal. Do you even care about the people in this locker room?" Others, including AJ Styles and Randy Orton, reportedly discussed boycotts or refusing future matches until WWE implemented meaningful safety reforms. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, fans began gathering in growing numbers. Candles, banners, and signs reading, "Stay strong Seth," and "Becky, we stand with you," flooded the parking lot. Social media exploded within minutes. Hashtags like hashtag pray for Seth, hashtag save the architect, and hashtag Becky strong trended globally. Video clips of Becky crying, holding Seth's hand, and pleading with medics circulated widely, generating millions of views and sparking outrage over WWE's apparent negligence. Inside the hospital, staff reported that Seth's condition was serious but stable after initial interventions. Doctors monitored him continuously, aware that even minor complications could escalate quickly. Becky remained vigilant, refusing to leave, checking every update, questioning every procedure, and making it clear she would not allow anything less than the best care for her husband. Fans' reactions were swift and passionate. Online forums, Twitter threads, and Instagram posts filled with anger at WWE's failure to protect performers. Many shared personal stories of how Seth had inspired them, emphasizing that no storyline, no championship, and no pay-per-view moment was worth risking a superstar's life. Some called for legal action, citing unsafe work conditions and lack of adequate medical support. The incident's impact extended beyond just Seth and Becky. Wrestlers and staff began re-evaluating their own safety, questioning WWE's rigorous schedules, travel demands, and extreme physical expectations. Discussions about collective action, walkouts, and demands for medical reform began circulating backstage. This was no longer an isolated incident. It had become a wake-up call for everyone involved. WWE management scrambled to contain the situation. Vague statements were issued about a medical emergency, but these did little to calm fans or the public. Sponsors reportedly demanded assurances that the company was taking immediate steps to protect talent. Internally, executives worked frantically to adjust upcoming events, rewrite storylines, and prepare for the fallout, but the image of Becky Lynch in tears refusing to leave Seth's side had already gone viral, making PR damage control nearly impossible. Every second counted. Medical staff worked relentlessly, performing tests and monitoring Seth for complications from exhaustion, dehydration, and prior injuries. Becky's presence, her constant attention, and her unwavering advocacy ensured that no detail was overlooked. For fans watching online, the emotional weight of her tears, combined with the urgency of the medical situation, made it impossible to look away. The WWE Universe, already emotionally invested in both Seth and Becky, now faced a new reality. Their heroes are human, fragile, and vulnerable. The combination of fan support, backstage outrage, and medical drama created a perfect storm that would force WWE to confront uncomfortable truths about performer safety and the human cost of entertainment. Even as updates trickled in, the sense of global solidarity among fans grew. Messages of hope, prayers, and anger flooded social media. The story became about more than just a single collapse. It was about accountability, responsibility, and the undeniable reality that behind every performance is a human life worth protecting. By the time Seth Rollins arrived in the California hospital's emergency wing, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Doctors and nurses moved with precision, placing monitors, IVs, and oxygen equipment around him. Every beep, every shift in his vitals, was a jolt to the heart of everyone in the waiting area. And there, by his side, stood Becky Lynch, her composure shattered, tears streaming down her face as she held his hand and refused to let go. Witnesses reported that Becky was pleading with doctors, her voice cracking with desperation. "Please, do everything. Don't let him slip away. He's my world." Even seasoned WWE superstars, used to high-pressure moments in arenas packed with tens of thousands, were reportedly stunned by the raw intensity of her grief. The usually fierce, unflappable man showed vulnerability in a way no one had ever seen, and the cameras that captured her anguish went viral within minutes. Backstage chaos at WWE had spilled into the public sphere. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles confronted executives in private meetings, questioning why Seth had been allowed to perform under unsafe conditions. Rumors suggested heated arguments broke out, with some talent threatening walkouts if the company did not implement stricter safety protocols. The shock and fear among the locker room were palpable. The incident forced them to confront a harsh reality. Even the strongest performers can be pushed to the brink. Outside the hospital, fans had begun a vigil that quickly grew in size and intensity. Thousands of supporters filled the streets, holding candles, signs, and chanting Seth's name. Social media exploded with hashtags like #PrayForSeth, #SaveTheArchitect, and #BeckyStrong, trending worldwide. Fans shared clips of Becky's tearful vigil, her desperate attempts to stay by Seth's side, and the emotional collapse of the WWE universe as they realized their heroes were human, vulnerable, and at serious risk. Inside the hospital, doctors reported that Seth's condition was serious but stable. They emphasized that immediate intervention had likely prevented a worse outcome, but every slight fluctuation in his vitals caused fresh waves of panic. Becky's presence was relentless. She questioned every procedure, monitored every update, and advocated tirelessly for her husband's care. Her determination made it clear. Nothing less than the best treatment would be acceptable. Fans and commentators online began to demand accountability. Posts flooded forums and social media platforms, criticizing WWE for overworking talent and failing to provide adequate medical oversight. Some even suggested that lawsuits might be forthcoming, highlighting systemic issues in the way performers are treated. The incident was no longer just about Seth. It had become a catalyst for discussions about ethics, safety, and the human cost behind professional wrestling. Backstage, the emotional toll was evident. Wrestlers shared that seeing Becky break down so publicly left them shaken. While some tried to offer comfort, many wrestlers were reportedly struggling with their own fears, realizing that any one of them could face the same dangerous circumstances. The company's usual confidence and controlled chaos had given way to a real-life crisis that left everyone questioning priorities and safety. As the night wore on, media outlets amplified the story. News coverage highlighted Becky's emotional vigil, Seth's hospitalization, and the growing outrage from fans worldwide. Experts weighed in on the dangers of extreme exhaustion, dehydration, and cumulative injuries for athletes like Seth. The narrative was clear. WWE's demands had nearly cost a top superstar his life. And amid it all, Becky remained the emotional anchor. Her presence at Seth's bedside, refusing to leave, refusing to accept uncertainty, became a symbol of love, loyalty, and humanity in a world built on scripted drama. Fans connected deeply with her vulnerability, flooding social media with messages of support, hope, and calls for WWE to enact immediate safety reforms. The combination of hospital intensity, fan outrage, backstage tension, and social media frenzy ensured that the incident would be remembered as one of the most dramatic and sobering moments in WWE history. The story of Becky Lynch in tears as Seth Rollins was rushed to the hospital transcended wrestling, highlighting the fragility of the performer's fans' cheer for and the urgent need for accountability. News of Seth Rollins' collapse spread like wildfire, turning a backstage incident into a global crisis. Fans around the world flooded social media with messages of support for Seth and Becky Lynch. Hashtags like #PrayForSeth, #BeckyStrong, and #SaveTheArchitect dominated trending lists on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Millions of fans shared photos, videos, and messages, creating a digital sea of outrage, empathy, and prayers. Outside the California hospital, crowds grew by the hour. Supporters waved banners, held up candles, and chanted Seth's name in unison. The scene became an impromptu vigil, with fans crying openly, some clutching their children, teaching them the gravity of the situation. News crews from around the world broadcast Becky's tearful vigil and her desperate attempts to stay by Seth's side, spreading the story far beyond wrestling circles. Inside the hospital, doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize Seth. Sources say he was being monitored in critical care, with his vitals constantly checked and multiple emergency interventions ready at a moment's notice. Becky's presence was unwavering. She questioned every procedure, monitored every update, and made sure Seth was receiving the absolute best care. Staff reportedly remarked on her fierce dedication, noting that her resolve was unshakable even as tears ran down her face. Backstage, the WWE locker room was in chaos. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles reportedly confronted executives, demanding accountability. "You pushed him too far," Owens allegedly shouted. "We're all at risk if this is how you treat your talent." Discussions of boycotts, walkouts, and internal strikes circulated among performers. Many wrestlers admitted to feeling terrified, realizing that extreme schedules and physical strain could put any of them in Seth's position. WWE management scrambled to contain the PR nightmare. Initial vague statements about a medical emergency were met with disbelief and anger. Sponsors demanded answers and assurances that talent safety was a priority. Internally, executives were rewriting storylines, delaying pay-per-view events, and managing media relations, but the image of Becky crying at Seth's bedside had already gone viral, making damage control almost impossible. Fans online weren't just expressing worry, they were furious. Comments flooded forums and social media, accusing WWE of negligence and demanding systemic changes to protect performers. Many emphasized that no storyline, title, or entertainment moment was worth risking the life of a superstar. Supporters shared personal stories of how Seth had inspired them, creating a powerful global movement demanding accountability. Hospital staff emphasized that every second counted. Seth remained under continuous monitoring, with doctors ready to intervene at the slightest sign of deterioration. Becky stayed relentlessly by his side, her emotional strength a stark contrast to her visible vulnerability. Her tears, pleas, and presence humanized a crisis that could have otherwise felt like distant news. Even beyond the WWE universe, the incident sparked conversations about athlete safety, mental and physical health, and the ethical responsibilities of entertainment companies. Commentators and experts highlighted the dangers of extreme schedules, inadequate recovery time, and overexertion. The story of Becky in tears as Seth was rushed to the hospital became a global example of why performer safety cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, backstage and in fan circles, discussions intensified about the broader implications. Could WWE survive a crisis like this without reform? Would performers speak up publicly? Were fans ready to demand real changes rather than simply mourn? Every second added to the tension, keeping viewers glued, emotionally invested, and desperate for updates. By the evening, the world had united in hope and outrage. Becky Lynch's tears became a symbol of love, loyalty, and the fragility of human life behind the spectacle of professional wrestling. Fans around the globe shared prayers, messages of support, and outrage, ensuring that WWE could not sweep this incident under the rug. The public scrutiny was at its peak, with fans demanding action, transparency, and above all, the safety of their heroes. Seth Rollins' collapse had become more than a medical emergency. It was a call to action, a reckoning for WWE, and a moment that showcased the very real human emotions behind the glitz and drama of professional wrestling. Becky Lynch's relentless dedication, her visible heartbreak, and her refusal to leave Seth's side amplified the gravity of the situation, making this one of the most intense, emotional, and unforgettable moments in WWE history.